A very warm welcome to Study IQ, my dear friends. I am Prashant Mavani. I hope you all are doing good this morning, and let's have a positive start. God could not be everywhere, so he created mother. This is a Jewish proverb, and I'm sure you might have heard about it, but I have made a connection. I see a connection here with your studies. The thing is that as an educator or a teacher, I am often asked this question that students often inquire about how many hours they have to study. Now, hours are quantitative and not qualitative. And if you compare this thing with a mother's love towards her baby, then you will find that a mother will not have a sort of fixed manual or hours that this many hours she will love her baby. In the same manner, a student should focus on quality of studies rather than quantity of hours. So this is a big thing that we can learn from mother's love. With this, dear friends, we have many important articles on our table today. As you can see, these 2 pages are full of articles. So let me introduce you to this one. This is about recalling the mandate. It is about Sri Lanka. We have talked about Sri Lanka in detail a couple of days ago. I think twice we have talked about it. Basically, you know that in Sri Lanka you have this coalition government at national level. Now local elections were held. The former president is gaining his control. He has a party which he backed has basically been a victorious party in these local elections, and there are problems going on between the president and the prime minister of Sri Lanka. But the thing is that they have 2 years to go. Recently there was a no confidence movement in their no confidence motion in their parliament, and things are all right for the current government, the national government. Now they have 2 years to go, and it is the right time for them to sort out all these indifferences that they have between each other or each other's party, and they should focus on this deliveries. They are been posted in this rank of president and prime minister by the people of Sri Lanka, so that they can sort out all the problems through which this Sri Lankan people are going through. So 2 hours is not a small amount of time. They can turn the tables if they want, but for that they have to work together and sort out all these differences. So that's basically everything about it. If you want, you can have a quick glance over it. Apart from that, we have discussed this Sri Lankan issue in detail. This one is about Brazil. Now here you have a leader of Brazil. He is been sentenced for 12 years for corruption and other things. But the thing is, see, if you go back in history, somewhere around say 70s and 80s in this South American continent, then you will find that generally one story is similar, generally speaking, in different countries of South America, is that they used to have this democracy, then later on dictatorship or military takeover, and most of the time this takeover is supported by USA. USA was engaged in extracting natural resources from this South American countries, and then you have these leaders who are basically opposing this thing. Then you see military coups and murders and other things as well. Now at present, this person is been supported by this former president, is supported by people. He came out with some innovative schemes, or you can say social welfare scheme like zero hunger, and this has helped as well the people of Brazil quite a lot. He came out with a scheme to ensure that this poor girls and boys they get access to higher education like universities and colleges, and this thing has helped many people out there in Brazil. But at present you have this political turmoil that is going on. Earlier as well, the president was going through this political turmoil. Now Brazil is part of BRICS. In this sense you can go through it, but when it comes to our foreign policy, then you will rarely find the South American continent in news items. So you can have a quick glance, but again, if you have extra time, or else I have given you the gist of these items. Now apart from that, we have many important articles. Here you have this patents and protecting public health. It is providing us with more, you can say, it is talking about this form 27 and some technical details. So we'll go through it and we'll understand what Doha Declaration is saying and what this form 27 is all about, and patents and other things. Here you have this tit for tat tariffs. It is about USA and China, again something that we have discussed in detail, but here you find this vision of China for 2025. So very interesting vision of China. We'll go through it as well. This is about questions beyond Facebook. We are not going into the details of CANFB. When I say CA, I'm talking about Cambridge Analytica, but here we will discuss the future of data. There are other companies who are collecting data, and then we'll also go through this public and private data collection. And this one is about Nepal reset, the relationship between India and Nepal, and this one is about education institutions. Last night I came out with a very interesting article, or not article, sorry, a very interesting video lecture, special video lecture on universities and higher education. If you haven't checked that one out, then I will reckon you guys to go through it. The English version, if you're looking for, then it will be out soon, hopefully today if I find a slot, or maybe tomorrow. I'll try my level best to share the English version as soon as possible, but I would highly recommend you guys to go through it, because education is a topic and it is part of your syllabus. Apart from that, you find question on education every year in your mains examination, and they can ask you a question on in your interview as well. Let's move on, dear friends. If you want to download the PDF of this lecture, then you can get it from my Facebook page or Twitter handle. You can get in touch with me. You can share your greetings and other things on this Twitter as well as Facebook page. With this, dear friends, StudyIQ provides pen drive and tablet courses for various different exams. As you can see on your screen, we cover range of competitive exams. To find out more about it, check out StudyIQ.com. With this, dear friends, let's start our discussion with this first article that is on Nepal reset. Now, before moving ahead, let me give you a basic understanding of India and Nepal's bilateral relationship. We have this strong people-to-people contact, and regular listeners, you would be aware about this thing, that people-to-people contact is one of the most important thing that is required if you want to build a very solid and good relationship with any country. So if you have this people-to-people contact, then sky is even not your limit. Now, when we say people-to-people contact, then we have this roti-beti relationship. Roti stands for breaking breads with each other, and beti stands for this matrimonial relationship that we have with the country of Nepal. Apart from that, they contribute in our armed forces. We have this Gurkha battalions, and there are more than 50-60,000 ex-soldiers are living in Nepal, right? They are getting their salaries or these pensions from India. So you have this armed or security connection as well as a roti-beti relationship. So here you can clearly say that relationship between both these countries are very cordial. And then you have this Hinduism angle as well. Nepal is a Hindu country, and India, you have majority is Hindu community. So you have this connection as well. So strong people-to-people contact between both the countries. Now, if we go back in recent past, then we have seen this thing that back in 2015 there was a blockade that was applied on Nepal by India, and this is definitely it was a sort of, you can say, a miscalculation by our top leadership, but this is the first thing that created this rupture or cracks between the relationship of both these countries. And apart from that, you have this China angle, right? Second point is China. Nepal is being, or was bit at present as well, it's a bit tilted towards China. But the new Prime Minister, Mr. Oli, has clarified that he is not going to favor any one particular country, may it be China or India. He will focus on Nepal's development, and that's what every prime minister should do, isn't it? And that's what their duty is all about. Now, China is having deep pockets, more money, as well as they can complete infra projects on time. So there are these advantages of China, and this is something that Nepal will definitely make the most out of. Now, if we go back in recent past, then we find that great deal of preparation has been done by both the sides. Because if you see this statement that were released by Mr. Oli and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, then the whole focus of this bilateral or official pronouncement has been on connectivity, how we can focus on connectivity, and there was absence of this tensions in public interactions. So this indicates that a huge amount of preparation is been done by both these parties, both India and Nepal, so that we are not sending out wrong signals. And we can also say that these ties are repaired. This blockade thing and all this thing took place when Oli was Prime Minister back in 2015. But then we saw this up and down going in Nepal. And the reason why we are discussing this thing in detail is because it is about India's neighborhood. So very important topic for your examination, and you should be well aware about things that are going on in our neighborhood, and the recent this sort of meetings we should thoroughly follow it. We will find some more articles on this thing, I believe, more articles, or not editorials but definitely some expert articles. At that point of time we will go through the details that we'll find at that point of time. But now coming back to this thing, now when I was saying that great deal of preparation has been done by both sides, observe this gesture of India. Our Minister of External Affairs Sushma Swaraj visited Mr. Oli even before his swearing in ceremony. So this indicates, and this is the first visit, or after Oli took over, this is his first overseas visit to India. So this itself indicates that Nepal is ready to sort out this cracks that we have. Now what we need to do is we need to refresh this 1950s Treaty of Peace and Friendship. We need to give it a touch of 2018, or we should also add some future projects or future vision in this Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Apart from that, Mr. Oli's desire is to turn his landlocked country into a land-linked country. China is definitely going to help in infrastructure development of Nepal. At the same time, we can also focus on some deliverables like road and rail links, power projects. Nepal has huge potential of hydroelectricity production. It is, if I'm not wrong, they are just using 4% of what they can produce, or their capacity, or there is a huge, you can say, opportunity in hydropower project. And then you have this post-earthquake reconstruction commitments. We have played a very important role, but then as well we need to support them with all our expertise and other things. They have also said that they want to get or support in terms of agriculture as well. We can do that thing, but one thing should be clear, that we should not engage, or we should avoid all this grand standing, and things will be all right with Nepal. Moving on to another item, this is about patents and protecting public health. Now you have this thing called Form 27. Now Form 27 seeks information to ensure that the patented material is adequately supplied in India. So how it works is, basically, let me give you some basic details about this Form 27. Let's take example of a medicine, right, or a pill, right? If a pill that is very important, and if it is protected by under this intellectual property rights and things, right, if it is patented basically, then you have to fill up this form. If it is coming from USA, say for example, then they have to fill, this company has to fill this Form 27, and under this Form 27 they have to ensure that these pills, if they are required in our country, and if, say for example, if demand is not met, just in case if demand is not met, means when I say this Form 27, you have to fill up all these details pertaining to this particular pill. Let's call it pill X. So they have to provide all the details regarding it. Now if India finds out that supply from USA is not fulfilling this demand that we have in our country, then we can ask for this statutory reasonable requirement, or we can ask for we can basically make a replica or a copy of this pill here, because it is pertaining to a very important thing called life and public health. So we can do this thing. This is absolutely fine as far as this public health is concerned. If your companies are not able to provide or if they are not able to fulfill this demand, then India can make some necessary changes. We can make, or we can produce medicine, that particular medicine here in our country. Now this patent laws are designed in such a way that it will give you a limited monopoly. Of course, you have invested in R&D, and now you are coming out with something extraordinary. See, the thing is, companies, right, private pharmaceutical companies, may it be here or may it be in any other country, their main objective is, of course, profit. I'm not saying that making profit is all bad, not at all. It is not bad. It is right if you are paying your tax rightly, if your product and services are in demand, if you are fulfilling the quality and value for money is there, then there is no harm in making profit out of it. But when it comes to medicine, then you have to have this fine balance as well. Now we can understand that you have invested huge amount of money, you have paid high salaries to these scientists, you have provided them with a huge amount of time as well, they have made many errors and things like that, you have paid interest on the loans and everything. But now when you come out with a sort of solid, or you can say groundbreaking medicine, then of course you should enjoy this monopoly. And when you have this monopoly, you will be able to make some profit, and you have proved that you can come out with this new medicine. So when you make this profit, you will of course reinvest in something else, and this will bring some new medicine, and it will be beneficial for millions and millions of people around the world. Now what happens is, many pharmaceutical companies, they will do incremental changes. Like, I'll give you a small example and this will help you. Like, say for example, iPhone 5, you have now iPhone 5, now they will come out with iPhone 6, right? So this is not a radical change, it is just a change in shape of size and some processor and other things, good cameras, etc., good screen, whatever. And then you have this iPhone 6. So you cannot claim that this is a radical product or groundbreaking thing. No, it is just a sort of one step ahead, or next step you can say, or it could be a sort of incremental innovation. It's not a radical innovation. I hope this thing is clear. Now most of the companies, they will try to project that their product is radical, but it's not always the case. Now you have this section 83 of the Patents Act, and it is about promoting inventions in India. We have this act here and it is about promoting inventions in our country. It's not just about importing inventions. We don't need this thing. And if we go back in the history as well, then we have applied, means we have created this thing called that if you want to sell something in India, then you have to apply for a license here in our country. And this license was, means you can understand this thing, the reason why we are asking for license, that you need to have this license, is because we are not tilted towards this promoting this imports when it comes to inventions. We need inventions here, and this has been a sort of strategy of our country for a very long period of time. Then you have this thing called TRIPS. TRIPS stands for this trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, and it provides this flexibility that when it comes to your sovereign rights, when it comes to, say for example, life and death situation, and at the same time you have this trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, so of course your right to life will have an upper hand, and that's what it should be, right? Article 21 of our constitution is basically protecting this right to life of our citizens. And when it comes to a particular medicine, if we need that medicine in our country, say for example TB medicine, right? We know TB is a very big thing in our country. We have discussed about it on TB day and around that point of time. So TB is a big thing. Now if you have a couple of American companies, and if they are charging, say for example 10,000 rupees per pill, then this is something that is not going to suit our country. So under this Doha declaration, we can legally go through it. Paragraph 5 subsection 2 or subpara 2 of this Doha declaration says that we can make necessary changes. We can, for the larger public interest, we can produce that. We can produce a copy of that medicine for this. So I hope this thing is clear when it comes to intellectual property right. Again, this intellectual IPR is given in your syllabus, so it is very important for you guys to understand or have this absolute clarity when it comes to this IPR, intellectual property right. So other thing is as per this form 27, you don't have to be this much technical, but let me quickly take you through this thing. Government can collect information about a particular product or a patentee, and then it can also publish it as well for larger public interest. So that's everything about this thing. And USA is nowadays taking this unilateral action, you know, on steel tariffs under GATT and General Agreement on Tariffs and Trades and things like that. So they are also many times misusing this things, international laws, and when we apply this sort of things in our country, when we are using this Article 21 or using this Doha Declaration, then we find objections from countries like USA. Now we are here in this tit for tat tariffs. Tariff war is on between USA and China. We have discussed about it a couple of days ago. Now, most interesting thing that I find in this article is this one: Made in China 2025. This is a strategy of China, and the main aim or the focus of this strategy is to transform China. You know, China is considered as a manufacturing hub of the world or factory of the world, but from now on, China wants to change this thing. It wants to become a world leader in scientific innovation. It is registering so many patents and innovations, and it is injecting huge amount of money in R&D. Apart from that, you also see this thing that robotic companies and artificial intelligence companies and other things are flourishing in China. They are working in China. They are doing reasonably good as well. So this mission of 2025 is going to be a big thing. You can understand how ahead China is when it comes to us. We are in the second stage here of manufacturing, and now they are entering into this era of, or they want to convert this country, this China, from manufacturing hub to scientific innovation. So big thing. Now we have seen this Mr. Trump and Xi Jinping applying tariffs on each other's products, and you know, this steel and aluminum. Now China has applied a tariff, higher tariff for American imports of this food items and pork and other things. So this is not going to help both these countries, because as far as America is concerned, they have this area called Rust Belt, and in this Rust Belt, because Chinese cheap steel and aluminum will not come in now, or you have this barrier, so because of that, they may, or it may hurt manufacturing jobs in this Rust Belt of America. At the same time, if we see Chinese situation, then cooking oil, as well as you can say that this animal feed that comes from USA will become expensive, and this will hurt China as well. Now, if we go through this US Congressional Research Service report of 2018, then we find that what it is saying that in fact exports to China has gone up, and if we compare the figures, then we find that in 2000 it was increasing at 2.1% rate, but in 2017 it has gone up to 8.4%. So this US trade deficit definition that is provided by Mr. Trump needs a sort of reflection. They have to go through it, this sort of rhetoric, and this sort of full-blown trade war, whether it will take place or not, hopefully not, is an open question. Let's hope that we don't want to see this sort of thing, because global economy has just started doing bit good, and if we see this sort of thing, protectionism, then this is going to be bad for the whole world or global economy. Now, coming on to another item, this is about questions beyond Facebook. Now, it has been argued that if Facebook will just stick with this collecting information or collecting information of users, then it is going to see itself as a floppy disk. You know, floppy disk are out of business now, right? They are a thing of the past. I'm not sure how many of you have seen this floppy disk, but when I was very young, at that point of time, it used to be in the market, and it was quite fascinating to see floppy disk. But then we had the CDs and DVDs, and now we have these pen drives and God knows what. So floppy disks are outdated, and the same way, if Facebook will not change its strategy, then it will be outdated as well. Now, we have seen this CA and FB, this Cambridge Analytica and Facebook thingy going on for a very long period of time, and recently Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, who was considered till last year, he was basically he is in fact richest person, one of the richest person in the world. At the same time, he was a youth icon. There are in fact so many followers of Mark Zuckerberg, but because of this CAFB thing, he is facing some sort of inquiries in USA. Now, recently USA had its Science and Engineering Festival Expo in Washington DC, and here the scientists or this exhibitors said to the kids who were there present in this expo, they said that you will be called as Mars generation. That means he has said that in future we will find youngsters or small kids, right? They will be living in Mars. That's what has been said by this futuristics, right? This scientific community is discussing this thing, and we have seen many robots, and there are so many innovations out there. So we cannot say that this is impossible, because back in early 1900s, flying was also considered impossible. During Mughal era, wireless telecommunication was considered impossible, but now we can see this thing and we are living quite happily with it, isn't it? So when it comes to data protection, right, one thing is, if you observe all the businesses or all different business models pertaining to technology or other things, you will find that data harvesting, analyzing data and selling data is a big business now, and it is very important for your success as well. These companies have been using, means there are companies out there, even small companies are using this data for telephone calling and other things and things like that. And Facebook, before Facebook, what used to happen when it comes to political inclination or discussion, chai pe charcha, you know, this chai shop in our country and other places, other parlors, people used to discuss this sort of political things and social things, and they used to openly talk about this sort of things. But when Facebook came in, it allowed or provided this platform to people so that they can discuss it with anyone in India, isn't it? Earlier on, you used to chat with your friends only, with your social group, but because of the social networking sites, particularly Facebook, it provided a platform that you can have your opinion, you can share your opinion and discuss political issues or other things at national level or international level. And it is something similar to what rockets are doing with the traveling, right? When basically plane came in, cars were looking a bit smaller in comparison to, or in fact they are slower when you compare it with plane. A car is faster than a cycle, and cycle is much faster than walking. So these are incremental steps of the way things have changed with the help of technology, and the same thing has been applied to, we can apply it with Facebook as well. Now Facebook is not the only company, right, this big company that is collecting data. If we compare Facebook's data collection with Amazon, Google, Microsoft and other companies, then they have data of people that Facebook cannot even dream of, and they use it for marketing, they use it for designing their products. At the same time, we also see that government is collecting data of people, and data can be used for traffic management, disease control, it can be used for planning population management and other things. But when it comes to privacy, we need, because this is there is a fine line here, and we are still getting used to with it. If you see a bigger picture, right, then you will find that we are getting used to with it around the world, because the changes that have taken place because of this telecommunication technologies, right, this changes has basically pulled our whole society. It has pulled or changed the way we used to live. So there are new challenges that are coming, like data protection and other things, and this is an ongoing process, right? Incremental changes will take place here. You cannot do a radical change here. I hope it is making sense when I'm saying incremental changes, step by step. The time we sort out something, then we will find some new problem, then we will sort it out again, and step by step we will come to a sort of good position, and all the problems will go away, hopefully. Moving on to another item, this is about National Institutional Ranking Framework, or HRD Ministry's new National Institutional Ranking Framework 2018. Now again, I will reckon you guys to go through yesterday's lecture on this, how to make Indian universities best in the world. Very innovative solutions you will find in that particular discussion. Now coming back to this item, see, this was been released recently by HRD. This is basically an index, you can say, and here participation levels are inadequate. We have total 40,000 colleges and 11,000 plus standalone institutions, but all of them are not represented in this new index. The other thing is that most of the time these educational institutions are, means you go through this practical, means data, that how many research are done, how many faculties you have, how many faculties have this doctorates and other things, right? But at the same time we can understand that this statistics or this sample survey, this sort of things, or data collection in this way will not provide you a proper picture. It will give you a good quantitative picture, but qualitative picture, for that you need to dig in more information. But if we want to sort out the problems that we find in our higher education, then there are many steps that we have to take. First of all, support from the government should be equal. All those institutions that are lagging behind, they should be supported by the government. And on top, teachers training as well as scholarship and learning, right? Fostering this knowledge and fostering this curiosity for knowledge. This sort of steps should be taken as far as this editorial is concerned. I'm sure when you'll go through the discussion that we have done yesterday, you'll find it very bit inferior in quality. But anyways, I'll leave it to know you guys. Now moving on to news item, dear friends. Supreme Court has slammed center for not taking any action on this Kaveri issue. This is a very sad picture, but this is something that we find quite often in our country. 27 children have died. There are many steps, right? Driving license, proper driver training, infrastructure, good engineering. If you have these curvy roads in hilly areas, then they should have a good fence. Speed limits should be set up and things like that. But sadly, we are very far behind. This rape victim's dad, this MLA from UP, still this thing is a sub judice thing, but it's a very sad thing. Literally very sad thing. A teenager is being raped and her father is being killed, or he dies in custody. A big issue, and we need to find answer for this thing, right? We cannot throw this thing under the carpet. Criminalization of politics is a big issue, and UP is infamous for this thing. Election Commission has warned all these local companies to make sure that they are not promoting fake news, in keeping in mind this upcoming Karnataka elections. Then row over judge elevation. This is Union Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad has wrote a letter to Chief Justice of India questioning that a person or a judge who is facing charges of sexual harassment, should that person be elevated for High Court without a proper investigation. And Supreme Court, as again we are seeing this sort of problems between CJI and top judges or senior most judges, right? We have discussed about it a couple of days ago, so not going into the details of this thing. North Korea is prepared to discuss denuclearization, as been said by USA. DCGA, that is Director General of Civil Aviation, has given a green signal. It will come out with a proper laws and rules and regulations on seaplanes. Seaplanes have many important benefits. It can provide you this last mile connectivity, particularly areas like, say for example, Brahmaputra River area. It can provide you a good connectivity there, and there are other good utility of this seaplanes. Global economy is entering into a new normal, has been said by Suresh Prabhu. This is a cartoon picture I've left for you guys to deduce what you can understand from this thing. See here, you have this Narmada scam written and other important information here. So make sure you provide your observation. And this is a question for you guys, right? A tough one, but a good one. With this, I end this discussion here. Please make sure that if you have learned something out of today's discussion, then please do give me your like. Pass this video to other people as well. Do share it with your friends, and I will share a link of this PDF for you guys on my FB and Twitter handle. Enjoy your studies. I'll see you all soon. Jai Hind.